Have you had the thought, my pets shouldn't be in pain, my pets shouldn't be dying? Well, yes, I have had that thought, and this is how the inquiry went for me. So I had two pugs, and they both developed cancer within a couple months of each other. And within about 5 months later, I had put them both to sleep. So I had this idea, this shouldn't have happened. And I looked back, and about 6 months prior, there had been some chemicals in our home, and it took them over 6 weeks to off gas. It had made me nauseous for a while, and of course, they're smaller. So I figured maybe that had caused the cancer. So the first question I asked, can I be 100% certain that my pugs shouldn't have suffered and shouldn't have died? And I had to answer no, I don't know that. All of us have different ages of life expectancy, life duration. There's no particular amount of time. Next, how do I feel when I have this thought that they shouldn't suffer and die? Well, that's quite a burden. Lots of constriction and heaviness and regret and guilt. How would I be without that thought? Well, I'd be moving on with my life, enjoying myself, focusing more on the positive memories with them. So, the first turnaround, my pugs should suffer and die. Well, that obviously doesn't sound very true at all, but I sat with an open mind, open heart, and I noticed a couple things. First, I noticed that actually I was moving across country, and my new living situation was going to be quite a lot of change for them, and they were getting up in age, so the timing actually worked out amazingly well. Also, when I looked at them, I put them to sleep before there was that much suffering, so they did get weaker and weaker, and I'm sure there was discomfort, but I think I was agonizing more and projecting a lot more pain and suffering onto them than actually happened. So I had to admit that. I was actually bringing more suffering into the world by the way I was rehearsing it in my head than anything that they had experienced. Then I did another turnaround. I shouldn't be suffering and dying. Well, that was true. By rehearsing this over and over, I was definitely pulling myself into a rut of heaviness and guilt. And I learned something. I learned that when there's chemicals, get out of the house, take your dogs with you. And I expect I'll always be learning and growing, which means I'll always be able to look back and say, oh, now I know how to do something better. So if I had this expectation, I won't look back and say I could do something better. That's unrealistic. So as I just relaxed into noticing that I was adding to their suffering, I was being unrealistic with myself, I allowed myself to open to the acceptance that this was not wrong, that it was okay, that I had enjoyed a lot of good times with them. We had spent a lot of time cuddling and playing and walking. It had been a rich time, that many years that I had shared with the two of them. And I moved into gratitude and humility and openness. And I recognized how egoic it was of me to demand that life be different. And instead, I relaxed into this beautiful gratitude and discovered that life is good.